Okay, so today I have a 2008 6.4. This one is customers complaining it's running rough. So first thing I'll do here is I'll go into IDS and go to self-test, and we'll look for trouble codes. And I'm only going to do powertrain because I only care about the engine at this time. And we'll see what kind of codes we get. A lot of people mistake things on these trucks because they start so fast, so you hardly ever get to hear what the cranking sounds like. So this truck has got a lot of codes set here. Let's go mass airflow sensor, intake air temperature sensor. It's not really what I'm looking for here. So we got a cylinder number 2 contribution balance code, cylinder number 7 fault, cylinder number 2 misfire. So usually when you get this misfire detected, it's going to be more than just an injector. Most of the time when you get an injector code, you'll get just a contribution balance, but when you get that code of a misfire detected, most of the time it's either fuel related, like there's a blockage in your fuel, or you have a bad piston. So it usually goes to either base engine fault or fuel supply fault. I never see a cylinder misfire that has a bad, usually it's not the injector's fault that's causing that misfire. It's usually something that's supplying the injector, either no compression or lack of fuel to that injector or something like that. So we'll continue on. And this one also has a turbocharger boost performance. That's going to be caused by this and that. So with two cylinders down, we'll go ahead and start it up and see what it sounds like. This only has one battery. So it's shaking the truck pretty bad. So we'll look at, let's go to power balance really quick. So number 2 is pretty much dead. There's nothing wrong with number 7. So we'll do manual injector buzz there. Let's shut the injector off. Doesn't even make a difference. So from judging this, a lot of people say, oh, your injector's bad. In this case, I don't believe so. What I want to know is why the truck's shaking so bad. So let's go here, and we're going to do a relative compression test. Do it because it doesn't have 2 batteries. So it's not going to let me do the relative compression checks because this truck only has 1 battery. Let's go take a look at something else. I got plenty of trucks here to work on, so these 6.4s are getting more and more of them. Okay. Like I said, this truck only has 1 battery. It's the way the guy brought it to me. I don't know why. So Since this truck cranks pretty fast, and they do that because they want to build up fuel pressure pretty quickly, because it runs off of high pressure fuel and not high pressure oil. So we'll take this wire here and let's see if we can get it to reach. Kind of hard doing this one-handed. See if I can get it to get onto the... Let's listen to the crank here and see how it sounds when it's cranking. So you can tell right there from the start, that's a base engine issue. So next would be to do a compression test on cylinder number 2 and see what the compression's at. From the way it sounds, it's not going to have any compression at all. So usually that's a base engine issue. So I'm going to say this one's down on number 2. And this one's probably going to need a motor. So there's your diagnosis for this truck with a running rough. And a pretty easy diagnosis. So if you ever have a truck that's not running right, if you think if it's an injector and you don't have a scan tool to really scan to see what's going on, try cranking it by hand and with those jumper wire and see how it sounds when it's cranking. If it's cranking like that, then you know you got a base engine issue. If it's cranking nice and smooth, then you know. Another thing I wanted to point out on this truck, first off, check the oil really quick. Okay, you can see right there, the oil's up a little high. So what's causing that is the diesel's getting, it's when the injector's firing, the diesel's shooting past the rings or past the piston, however it's getting to the crankcase, and the crankcase is filling up with diesel fuel. So on these 6.4s, what commonly happens is when you get a misfire like that, if it starts popping, you'll hear popping coming out of the air box over here. It'll start going pop, 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 and then you also hear it in the tailpipe. If you get a popping noise, what's going on is the rocker arms, the little piece on the rocker arm sometimes wears out or breaks off, and it causes the rocker arm not to push down on the bridge for the valves. Since this truck isn't really popping when it's running, the pop is going to come from the compression when the valves are shut, but it's building compression, it's not letting it out. So when the intake valve opens up, whichever valve opens up, it pushes air or pulls air out too fast, and it causes that pop, that release in pressure. With this truck, it's getting, I got a couple things going on. At first, I got no popping noise coming from the air box or the exhaust, so I know I don't have a stuck valve. 2, it's got a bad crank, so it's an uneven crank. 3, I got fuel in my oil, and my oil is getting filled up with diesel fuel. So this is going to be a really bad base engine issue. So it's 100%. I can guarantee if I pull this valve cover off and do a compression test on cylinder number 2, I'm going to have 0 psi pressure, if any. And what I would do, since I have that whole valve cover off on that side, I'm going to just do a compression test on all 4 of them. So this engine's probably worn out. I'm probably going to have 0 on number 2, and then when I go to 4, 6, and 8, I'm probably going to have, probably 180 or whatever, just barely enough to make this thing run. So, but there's a couple other things for you guys to look at there when doing a diagnosis on your 6.4. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to leave a comment and like and subscribe. Thank you.